Welcome back, everyone. I'm seeing screenshots. I'm hearing good things about that breakout room that you guys were hard at work and ready to share. So I am going to hand it back to Joanna, and we're going to bring in some college mentors, and we're going to have our Q&A wrap-up session.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are so excited to see your designs. I am joined for our wrap-up session by Grace Markovich and Sanahi Fragoso. And I'm really, I think we're all very excited to see the designs you came up with and hear about some of the highs and the lows of the process, of what you found worked best. So without further ado, does anybody want to share a little bit about what they did for their design? Did you have success getting one pill to start releasing at 5 seconds and another at 30? Don't be shy. We'd love to hear what you're doing. Oh, okay. I think we have Lancaster High School with their hand raised.
Yeah, come on up. All right. Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
The right mic. Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so for ours, we were able to take one of the filter paper and wrap it around just one of them and stick it into the paper clip. And then for the other one, we did the same amount of the filter paper on there and then put a tissue around it as well. And that was able to delay the process for it to dissolve.
Wow, okay. And so did you try multiple trials? Did you have success right off the bat, or did you?
So we didn't get that until our third one. The first trial didn't actually dissolve at all. We put too much on there. And then the second one, it did, but it took about a minute and a half to. And then we just kept lessening it until it was on time.
Awesome. Grace or Sanahi, do you have any questions? I was wondering how did you guys work in a team? I really appreciate you standing up and being the spokesman for your team. How did it go collaborating together?
So we had enough kids, so we were able to split into pairs and work in groups of two, and do our own stuff on our own.
Awesome.
Yeah. I remember the first time I did this, I kind of had the same thinking of I put way too much on there thinking that they would dissolve so easily in water, but really by the time you wrap it in there, you see that it takes a little bit longer. So I really like your process of almost starting with too much and then slowly narrowing it away until you get the perfect amount.
Yes.
Great job. Any other teams at Lancaster want to share?
Anyone else? Same kind of process? Were all the groups able to get the timing?
Yeah.
Good job.
Everybody, so here we are.
Thank you
Do
so
we
much.
have another school wanting to share?
Oh, good morning. From Mount Development High School. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, we did the lab yesterday. Yeah, so thank you. It was very exciting and very simple to follow. And I really liked it. So we done the lab today. So they may come up with some question later on, but we have a great time. Thank you.
Great. I felt like I learned so much about how medicines are delivered to the body through the digestive system through this lab. Are any students there interested in this kind of engineering or the medical field? What do you guys think? Don't be shy. Well, we'll have plenty of time for questions, and be thinking of them because you've got two amazing college mentors here to help answer your questions.
Oh, look, Joanna, Academy.
Oh, here we have Academy Charter School, and you look so smart in your lab coats. Wowza. I can't wait to hear what you've discovered today.
So in our experiment, we faced many highs and lows. We worked in groups of 4s, and we had a timekeeper and a person writing down our data. So we were able to communicate and work as a team, and we learned from trial and error. And at the end of our experiment, we were able to compile all our data and see what we learned from the experiment.
That's great. It sounds like you guys had a really collaborative experience. I feel like you said everyone had like a role, so that's very impressive. Is there, after like this experience, is there any interest going into the field or any type of like different engineering that sparked your interest?
Me personally, I'm not looking in the engineering aspect, but it was very good to see how different things work and how similar it is to like the structure of your body.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you guys learned something. I definitely did when I did it. Thanks
I
for
think that's
sharing.
I think that's just a great point about engineering in general. I think like for me, the biggest thing I'm getting from my engineering degree is just learning how to solve like different complex problems, work in teams, and some of those more like high level skills. Even if like I don't use everything I learned from all my classes in the future, it's just like a great way to get to learn like new different sorts of skills and like the problem solving and team working aspects.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, you did an amazing job. Very articulate in the way you described your process. Does anybody have a design to show, or did you do the design? Does anybody want to talk about the details of one of their designs? Did anybody have a design that just didn't work at all, and what you changed? It would be good to hear about the highs and the lows.
Tony. Yes, we do have Tony.
Come on up.
Like
Don't be shy. I mean, talking about what didn't work is sometimes even more helpful
Like what
than
didn't work.
talking about what did work.
Hi.
So for the experiment, so for the experiment, some of the stuff didn't like it varied, like the results, like some colors dissolve faster while others didn't. Like it really varied. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it difficult to come up with a design that put the two tablets together? I was wondering how different teams worked on that part of it to sort of make the pill where it would be one that you would take all together, like my cold medicine capsule.
Yes, because like you had to figure out how to wrap the tablet a certain way so it could stick. And like we struggled a little bit with it, but we worked it out.
That's amazing. Grace and Sanahi, I'm sure you can talk about the struggle a little bit as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've had to learn how to fail a lot, and like something that we talk about in a lot of my classes is failing quickly. Like once you realize that you're going down the wrong path, like being able to quickly transition and not get too hung up on it is a really valuable skill, just because a lot of times like different solutions are going to lead to failure in the end. So being able to like quickly work through that, figure out how it went wrong, and then transition to doing something new in the future is a really important skill to have.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Academy Charter School. Well done.
Well
Um,
done.
I think I have my screen is showing that Mr. Lee is raising his hand. Does Mr. Lee want to come back on screen?
Yes, Kelly, do you have a question?
Hi, I was just wondering like if pharmaceutical like fields, like what careers I could go into, like with medicine and stuff, or like any other careers that like I wouldn't know about.
That's a great question. And I'm really excited for you to hear our panel speakers this afternoon, because what you're going to find there is we've got an electrical engineer, we've got a environmental civil engineer, and we have a biomedical engineer. Um, and they have all held roles in the pharmaceutical industry. One has been doing like product design, really wanting to get involved in like building prosthetics and things like that. Emmy, who you're going to hear from, has been working on developing drug delivery systems and figuring out how to manufacture drugs on a bigger scale. And then Christine has had a lot of experience in sort of the management role, product development, and getting funding and things like that. So there's sort of the money side of things, there's the design side of things, and there's also the manufacturing side of things. And so many different opportunities for you. And I would say, as Grace was saying earlier, having even a little background in engineering really helps you in whatever profession you pursue. I don't know, Grace, do you want to build on that?
Yeah, I think just like for me, I am going into more of a commercial role after college, and a lot of people have asked me like why I'm doing that with an engineering background, but I think like after interning last summer with a lot of people who had like other majors, I really learned that my major gave me a really interesting background, and like one of the biggest compliments I received at the end of my internship was just that I solved problems really differently from a lot of people they had seen. And I think I take a really systematic approach to solving problems because with like my chemical engineering major, I have to consider all the factors that I'm solving for, whether that's like pressure, temperature, volume, look at all the different charts to see like how different chemicals like interact with each other and like how their like vapor pressures interact with each other, which is just super complex. So I think that anything with engineering really gives you a background to then go on and solve like any sort of other problems, even if they're not traditional just engineering problems. So like even with like pharmaceuticals, like going into more of that like manufacturing side of things, that's very traditional engineering, but then also there's a lot of complex problems in that commercial side. Or like another big option, I know some people in chemical engineering that are going on to med school. So they'll be doctors and they have different problems that they face every single day with complex symptoms that patients present to them. So yeah, that's my big points on the engineering major, why it's really valuable for any sort of career.
Great question, and I hope you enjoy hearing from firsthand on what some of these careers are like on a day-to-day basis when we hear from our panelists in a little while. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was an excellent question.
So I don't see any more hands raised. Do we have any more schools that want to ask a question or present? Or there's always time throughout as well. I don't see any immediately, so why don't I start? What I thought we could do is just continue on this discussion of the journey into engineering. So you can hear from us all about kind of how that happened. So I'm just going to share my screen. Again, just to reintroduce myself, I'm Joanna Caudle and had a career as a mechanical engineer working for a big construction company called Bechtel. Then I transitioned to become a high school STEM physics and STEM educator. And I've been fortunate to work with Engineering Tomorrow for the last 5 years and have so enjoyed meeting students in schools across the country, just like you. Briefly about me. I I was the first girl in my family to go to college, and I think my journey to engineering really started with my father. He was a civil engineer and worked for a big construction company too, and that job took us all over the world. He worked on big projects, and so we would go move to the area where the project was being built. So just to give you an idea, I was born in England. My mom and dad are from England. But when I was 6 weeks old, we moved to India and I lived there for 3 years. Then we moved to California. I spent the first half of my high school in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then when I was a sophomore, halfway through my sophomore year, we moved to Mexico City in Mexico. So I moved about every 3 years, which I know probably doesn't always sound so fun, but for me, it really something I loved or I started to love was that I could learn about a new culture and a new place. It really made me want to have a job where I could travel and see new places. So engineering was very interesting to me from that standpoint through my dad. What you're also seeing in this picture is a fortress of empowerment. My mom was from a big family, but very humble means. And so you're seeing she was one of 9 children and had 6 sisters. So let's just say I had a lot of aunties who had very high expectations for their nieces. And I was just very fortunate to have this group of women behind me, making me feel like I could do anything I wanted to. And I guess I'm adding that because I do hope that you have people in your lives that are empowering you and making you feel like you can take on challenging things. Certainly, I hope you're hearing from me that you can do things that you put your mind to. I promise you. Physics and engineering are hard subjects, but they're just like any skill. Learning to solve a physics problem is just like learning how to shoot a free throw. You have to keep learning and practicing to make it happen. Um, and that's how it is in college as well. I think you're going to hear from all of us that we all went through some challenging times, but that's part of what makes an engineering career so amazing is that you learn how to solve these tough problems and that you get to do it in teams. You get to do it with others. And so you're working with a unique group of people who all have different backgrounds and come together to solve a problem, just like you did today. Really briefly, my early career out of school was working as a test engineer, where I looked at making sure that satellites could withstand the conditions of space. So what you're seeing on the left is a satellite in a big vacuum chamber with the lid off. And what we would do is close up the lid, close up the chamber, suck out the air to create a vacuum, and then cycle the temperature to make sure that the satellite could withstand the high differentials in temperature that it would see when it was in space. And I liked that job, and but I found that I didn't actually get to know too much about what the satellite did. I didn't get to know much about the processes involved. I only was the test engineer. So I've realized very quickly that I was kind of a bigger picture thinker, and I got to move to a I got a job in Miami working on a big power plant, maintaining that power plant. And you might think that doesn't sound as exciting as working in the space industry, but I mention it because what I got to do when I worked on this plant was I got to learn about every single system um, in the plant, and it allowed me to see how a whole very complex power plant works as I worked there a couple of years. So my advice to you before I pass things on to our next engineer is um, right now, think about what you like to do in high school. What things do you like that feel like they're not work at all? And think about how you can use those kinds of activities. How could you turn those kinds of activities into a job in the future? I realized that I really am a big picture thinker, and I wanted to do something that allowed me to do that. But no matter what, all experience is good experience. And so now I'm excited to pass uh, the baton to Sanahi, who's going to tell you a little bit about her background.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for all your inspirational words, Joanna. That was I loved hearing the story and your background. And, in Engineering Tomorrow, there's so many amazing engineering background and stories that even I love to hear. So I'm glad that you guys, oh, sorry, I think I got muted for a second. But my name is Sinaim, and I'm have a background in environmental engineering as my bachelor's from Cornell University and then master's in mechanical engineering. So I am mainly interested in like the life sciences, so pharmaceutical, biotech, biomed. I still have interest in renewable energy, sustainable development. I think with engineering, it can be hard just figuring out like, oh, I only want to do one thing. So I was definitely a product of enjoying different things and trying to bring them together. And yeah, I've been an intern with Engineering Tomorrow. Um, and I've also helped with other labs these past summers. So yeah, and what I'm up to, so this is kind of my engineering trajectory. I was involved in a program called SMASH, which stands for Science, Math, and Honors, Science, Math, and Summer Math and Science Honors Academy. It can be a mouthful, but I did that for a few summers at UC Berkeley, and there I learned different engineering skills. I built on what I really liked, so I was really happy that I got that chance to do that. And then once I started college, I really was interested in kind of the wastewater treatment industry. So I joined a project team called Agua Clara at my school, and they're focused on providing sustainable water resources for communities in Honduras. So there I kind of started doing my environmental engineering work that I liked. A random summer, I landed a position at a biomed startup doing manufacturing work, which was very, very different. But I took some mechanical engineering courses, so I was like, why not? Let's just try it. And I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the hands-on aspect, and I think that's what I was kind of missing with environmental engineering. I loved building a product and seeing it in fruition. So that's the thing that I really saw from mechanical engineering that I loved. And I continued to do more internships. I worked at AbbVie, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, and then I started my master's, so I did mechanical engineering because of what I said. I was kind of missing the hands-on aspect from my bachelor's, and I want to go into the life science industry after college. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of a roadblock of or a roadmap of my journey. So I did a lot of collaboration. I know you guys are doing a lot of collaboration now, so that's great. I love to see that. There's definitely a lot of that in college if you decide to pursue engineering, but I did a lot of projects that you can see on the left corner. I did internships, summer internships, and then as you can see, that's in the middle kind of, that's me hugging a a float anaerobic sludge blanket, which is part of a wastewater treatment plant. So we were manufacturing a different one there. And next or forward, I did internships, I did designing, and yeah, and college isn't all about, projects, homework, school. That's definitely very important, but a big part of it is also doing things that you enjoy. So something I do for fun is dance. I was part of two dance teams, so we do a lot of practices and choreography I did for them. So it's definitely something to look forward to. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to Grace to kind of talk about her.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Grace. I'm currently a senior at Notre Dame studying chemical engineering. My minor is in engineering corporate practice, so that looks at the crossover between business and engineering. And then things I'm interested within engineering. This is actually like interesting and really related to this lab, but first going into college, I thought I really wanted to go into pharmaceuticals. I think like with like the COVID-19 pandemic, I just was really piquing my interest at the time. And then I think through a lot of exploration throughout college, I started to shy away from that a little bit more and then get more into the energy side of things. But my degree is actually in the Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering. So related to this lab, I've had to take a lot of different bio and engineering classes. Like I did biothermodynamics and I did biology and biochemistry. So I've still gotten a hint of what I was interested in pharmaceuticals, but then had the opportunity to just explore a little bit more and switch around with industries there. So my path to getting to engineering is a little interesting. So when I was in high school, I took lots of AP science and math classes. I was really involved outside of the classroom. So I was a competitive swimmer. I swam 16 hours a week and I did different mentoring programs. So I wasn't super into the academic front, but I always knew I really liked chemistry. But after taking chemistry, I took physics and I kind of liked physics too. And then I took calculus and I really liked that as well. But I was still thinking like just a chemistry major. But then I kind of decided I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to grad school after college. And with doing a chemistry major, it seemed like I was going to have to do some sort of grad school to be able to go into industry right away. So then I kind of landed on engineering as a way of combining those subjects, but also just a way that I knew I could for sure just go into industry after college. So I didn't really have any experience with engineering going into college at all, besides taking those science classes. So everyone on this call is already so many steps ahead of where I was in high school. But once I got to Notre Dame, I took my first engineering classes and I really loved them. I think I loved them for different reasons than I expected. I always knew I was going to like the science side of things, but I really loved that I got to work with a bunch of different teams with people of different backgrounds and we got to study different complex problems that you needed to have teamwork to do. And I think that really got me hooked. And throughout college, I have been involved in a lot of things outside of engineering. I'm always a huge advocate for getting outside the classroom and just doing things you're passionate about. So I got to study abroad in London for a summer, which was really cool. That's through the Department of Engineering here, which is pretty unique to Notre Dame. I also was involved in a lot of different leadership things on campus. Like I was the vice president of my dorm last year. This year, I'm the president of Texas Club, which is a really fun and exciting role for me. And I've still continued to swim throughout college, but at a much more chill level than I was before. I've also gotten really into running. So there's just a lot of things that I've gotten involved in outside the classroom, but then also within the classroom. I did my engineering classes, but then I also got involved in the business minor. I never thought I was going to be a business person. I always thought I was hardcore STEM. I was never going to touch any sort of econ or finance, but I took this minor just because I thought it would be useful eventually, and I ended up really loving it. I'm in finance right now, and I've taken econ in the past and accounting, and those classes are just really interesting to me too. So I kind of figured out that I like both sides of that with engineering and business. So then last summer, I interned at BP because they have just like when you're working in energy, going into a big company like that is really exciting. They have a lot of renewable initiatives that they're involved in addition to just their traditional energy systems. But I went in as a trading intern, which super different from engineering, looking at supply, demand, figuring out what prices of different products you're going to do was just a whole new sort of complex challenge to me that I just found really exciting. It's one of my favorite things I've done. So I decided that I was going to accept a full-time position in their analytics program within their supply trading and shipping group. So after college, I'll be able to build complex models and things like that that I've learned with engineering, but apply it to more of business problems. So just some pictures. So those like top left ones are me in high school. So that's me winning my high school championship, which was super awesome. One of the like best moments I had in high school. And like those are some of my great teammates. And then I have those pictures of whiteboards. So I always think it's fun to include these. This is how I used to study for all my tests and solve all my physics problems was I would get a big whiteboard because I'd mess up so many times I had to erase it and start over. Definitely a great investment that I had in high school in that whiteboard just because I've continued to do stuff like that. I now do it on my computer because I erase things so many times and start over. And then those pictures on the top right are from my first engineering class. So I had to learn how to design things in CAD, which was super new to me. I had never thought about 3D printing or anything like that. And I had to do it my first semester. So that was really fun to be able to learn that skill. And then the bottom right is a picture of the Notre Dame dorm in London. So I got to stay there for 6 weeks. Really interesting. It's like an old women and children's hospital that Notre Dame then bought and then restored into a dorm. And then last on those bottom left photos, I have just some pictures of me throughout college. So I have me in the lab, but then I also have me and two of my really great friends. We planned a 5K for our dorm that raised money for a breast cancer research institute. And we were able to raise a few $1,000s, which was really exciting. And then I have some pictures of me in office hours, which are really important. Definitely a huge advocate when you go to college, go to office hours. And then the last one is this crazy complex chart that I would never have thought that I would know how to use it. And now like I use it all the time. So yeah, I think this just shows a lot of growth and there's a lot more to engineering than just like the hard classes and the sleepless nights. I think there's a lot you can do with it and outside of it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sanahi and Grace. That was really amazing. Sorry, Jillian, did you want to say something? I thought that was amazing.
It was amazing. And there's one question for Grace in the chat.
Yes. So this is funny. I was always a flyer. I always a butterfly when I was growing up, but senior year I decided I just didn't want to deal with that anymore. So I became a freestyler. So probably freestyle is my favorite, even though butterfly was my best for a really long time.
That's amazing. I felt like I heard so many good lessons to take away there. I heard about a growth mindset. I heard about being open to new experiences, thinking that you want to go in doing one thing and finding out that you wanted to do another. Also, that you had so much fun in engineering school as well, that you were able to do other things. To be able to study abroad in engineering school sounds pretty amazing to me. That sounds like London, of course, where I was born, one of my favorite places in the world. So that sounds like such an exciting time. And Sanahi, both your abilities to continue dancing and swimming, um, makes it sound really fun.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question that just says, what's your best advice for students struggling in their math class? I could just start answering this one. So I I feel like for me when I was younger, math was always one of my best subjects, and then it finally got to a point where it was no longer one of my best subjects. And so realizing at first that I was struggling in math was the biggest step, and then asking for help from anyone. I know like I've had some really great teachers throughout high school and college who are willing to sit down with me and help me out. And also I have a lot of really great friends who have helped me out throughout my math classes. Like I had one friend and he was really great at math, so he'd consistently sit down with me and help me do my homework, which was always really awesome. So I think my biggest advice is go to your friends first. They understand you, they're willing to help you, and then like if that doesn't help, then like any teacher or professor is always willing to help out and give you extra help, because at the end of the day, something I learned here is I had one professor say he wanted all of us to understand all the math we were learning because we're going to be the ones designing the future bridges and refineries and things like that. So if we don't know how to do math, then there's a lot bigger problems for the world. So I think most people take on that sort of mindset and they're always willing to help out.
That is such a great answer. And like I said, don't be intimidated with the struggle. Recognize that that is part of learning and part of growing, and you get better and better at it the more you do it. So find people who can help you, like Grace so excellently said, and you'll find success, I promise. Well, this has been an amazing Q&A and wrap up, and I really want to thank Grace and Sanahi for their time and their vulnerability and sharing the highs and the lows of an engineering career. Thank you so much. Jillian, shall I turn it over to you, or shall we move right into our next thing?
Let's move right in. I think our keynote presenters are here and we are so excited to hear from them. So let's roll right into it.
Great, great. Okay. Well, as I've been telling you all day, I'm so excited to welcome our keynote speakers. Let me just quickly start sharing my screen so you can see a little bit about them. Here we go. And I just am pulling up my, here we go. So it is my pleasure to welcome Christine, Emmy, and Emma today, and to share with you all the things that they have been learning about in their various careers. Christine studied electrical engineering at Yale and graduated from MIT's Leaders for Global Operations program. She earned master's degrees in management science and also electrical engineering. Way to overachiever, Christine. She worked in product development and manufacturing at GE Aircraft Engines, ITT Fluid Technology Corporation, and the pharmaceutical company Haemonetics Corporation, which produces blood processing equipment. Christine now teaches engineering and computer science and finance at an all-girls high school. And she's also, I'm proud to say, partnered with Engineering Tomorrow in curriculum development, and now serves on the board of Engineering Tomorrow. Emmy, Maria Amelia, or Emmy, is passionate about improving health through innovation. She began her journey studying chemical engineering at the National University of Mar del Plata in Argentina. Later, she earned an MBA and a master's from the same school as Christine, MIT, and was part of the Leaders for Global Operations program. There, she completed an award-winning thesis which used machine learning to improve biologic and manufacturing processes. She now works as a senior manager at Amgen, and here she works in manufacturing and hopes to develop medicines to fight the world's toughest diseases. And finally, last but not least, is the wonderful Emma O'Shea. Emma has been interested in medicine to some degree, but was during her high school engineering and design program, which was taught by Christine, that she was exposed to the many ways the health industry is related to engineering. This led her to study biomedical engineering at Bucknell University. There are many different areas within the biomedical engineering field, as I'm sure you can imagine. But Emma was always most interested in the mechanical applications, specifically prosthetics and orthopedic medical devices. While in college, Emma worked as an intern for 2 summers with Engineering Tomorrow. I had the pleasure of working with her, working on our lab challenges. She also focused her other extracurriculars and job experiences around her interest in medical devices. She was president of her university's chapter of eNable, which you're going to hear more about. It's a club that provides 3D printed prosthetics for kids in need. She also interned at KLS Martin, a medical device company where she now works full-time as a new product development manager. And today we're going to start with Emma, she's the most recent graduate, and you have worked for this medical device company. Can you explain what that includes? And then maybe tell us a little bit about your current role in new product development? I'm not hearing Emma. Are you?
No, not able to hear you. No, say something else.
Hello.
There
Yay.
we
Okay,
go.
gotcha.
Thanks, Joanna. I was just saying that medical devices are a little different from pharmaceuticals, but there is definitely a lot of overlap as well. So medical devices are mechanical products that are used to perform a medical purpose. They can be made of a variety of different materials, including biomaterials, electronics, and optics. There's a bunch of examples of medical devices that you're probably familiar with, from something as simple as a stethoscope to an implantable electronic like a pacemaker, X-ray machines, diagnostic equipment. Even medical device companies sell lights for the operating room. So it's a very wide spectrum. One thing I wanted to highlight about medical devices is that there are 3 main categories. Class 1 would be minimal potential harm to patients. So these are things like stethoscopes, different like external devices that are not really going to affect the patient's body all that much. Class 2 could have moderate potential harm to patients. So this is mainly what I deal with. We like plates that might be put onto different bones inside your body, different implants like that, but they don't really change anything about the way your body functions. Those would be class 2. And then class 3 are the most intense medical devices. These have severe potential risk of illness or injury to patients if something were to go wrong. This would be something like an electronic implant, which controls the way one of your organs functions, such as a pacemaker, where if your pacemaker stops working, that would put serious threat to your life. So the different classes of medical devices have different pathways through the FDA and kind of have very different product development cycles depending on, how risky they are.
Thank you for that. And now I think you were going to tell us a little bit more about kind of your device company. So I'll move to the next slide. What is new product development like?
So I work at KLS Martin, which is a privately owned medical device company. We're headquartered in Germany. However, in the United States, we have our own facility where we design, manufacture, and sell orthopedic implants for the head and thoracic spaces. So a simple way to think about it is if you were to break any sort of bone in your body like through surgery, but you can't put a cast on it. So like you can't really put a cast on your head, you can't put a cast on your sternum. We design plates and screws that fixate those bones, and then that's how your bone will eventually heal back together. So I'm a new product development engineer, so I focus on the early stages of new projects. Oftentimes a doctor will come to us with an idea, something they want to make better, and we take that idea through the development cycle, and hopefully we end up with a new product in the market. So new product development has kind of a cycle I've listed on the screen here, from information gathering, evaluation, feasibility, and development. Some of the key parts of my role include in the information gathering and evaluation stages, I can observe surgery and meet with doctors to learn more about the medical devices and how they can be improved. In the evaluation and feasibility stages, I spend a lot of time collaborating with different members of teams at my company, including product management, engineering, and sales, to try to identify exactly what we want the new product to look like. And then we also identify the needs of all the different users, such as the surgeon, the hospital staff, patients, and caregivers. And then during the feasibility stage, I'm usually making a lot of prototypes, coming up with designs. And during that stage, I might travel to different hospitals to meet with surgeons, or I'll travel to our facility in Germany to meet with the other engineering teams. And during those trips, we're just collaborating, going through the prototypes, seeing if we want any changes. And I'm doing a lot of work on CAD with computer design, 3D printing and machining. And we also test these prototypes on different models we have, and we even do cadaver labs a lot to do testing. After feasibility is done, the product will go into the official development cycle, which is a lot more regulated. That's where the FDA gets involved. There's a lot of paperwork. I don't work as much in that cycle, but it's a similar kind of process, just a bit more regulated and controlled.
Emma, it sounds like such an amazing job for someone so early in her career. You're doing all different kinds of things. You're traveling. It sounds like you've hit the jackpot. I can't wait to hear. I'm sure students will have some questions about some of the things you've done. I liked everything except maybe the cadaver lab. No gracias for me. Well, now let's hear from Emmy. Emmy, your career has spanned roles in supply chain and manufacturing at Procter & Gamble, at Johnson & Johnson, and now with Amgen. As a manufacturing technologies manager, you lead the implementation of digital tools to improve manufacturing of medicines. Can you tell us a little bit about what a pharmaceutical company does, and how would you define pharmaceutical products?
Hi, Joanna. Thank you for the intro. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. So thank you for the opportunity. And I would define pharmaceutical products as products that are designed to interact with our body's immune and metabolic systems. And these can be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent illnesses. Some examples are vaccines, antibiotics, pain relievers. I currently, as you mentioned, work for Amgen. Amgen is a biotech company, and we produce biopharmaceuticals. And they are derived from living organisms. So I wanted to make a distinction that I think might be helpful to understand different type of pharmaceutical products. So on the one hand, you can have small molecules, which are what I think we traditionally know as pharmaceuticals. And these are chemically synthesized. And then on the other hand, what Amgen manufactures is these, what we know as large molecules or biologics. So a big difference between small molecules and large molecules is the size, right? It is in the name, actually. One is called small and the other one is called large. So small molecules, you can imagine those as microscopic puzzle pieces. And these are, as I said before, usually chemically synthesized. And a big difference is how we can get them in our system. Small molecules usually can be swallowed, so they can be consumed orally. And because they are stable and small, they are good enough to go through our digestive systems. Some examples of small molecules are aspirin, ibuprofen, blood pressure medications. large molecules, what we do at Amgen and at the other side, these are more bigger and complex. You can think of them as intricate Lego structures, where the structure of the protein and the molecule is very important for the disease that we are aiming to treat. So these, instead of being chemically synthesized, they are made by living organisms. And because the structure is so important, and because of the size, because they are large, they cannot be swallowed like through a pill. So they are usually injectable to get directly into our bloodstream. And examples of these and that we make at Amgen are monoclonal antibodies for cancer treatments. It could also be insulin to treat diabetes. And I wanted to also highlight that scientists and doctors, we carefully test these medications before we release them into the market to make sure that they are safe and effective. So there's a process for approval of pharmaceuticals. Usually there's a process that involves 3 clinical trials before they are approved by the FDA, and then there's another phase, 4th phase within the clinical trials for post-market surveillance of the products. And I think there was a question, a pre-submitted question on like drug safety, so I wanted to touch on that in my description of pharmaceuticals. But that's, Joanna, how I would define pharmaceuticals. And if we go into the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit.
I was gonna say, I remember that your background is in environmental and civil engineering. Is that right? Am I right? So it does seem like quite a jump to go into the pharmaceutical sector, but I think as we've been learning today, it's such a broad field, and it sounds like the types of problems that you work on still require that same engineering design process. Can you tell us a bit about your educational and career journey and how you ended up at Amgen?
Yes, thank you, Joanna. And I was gonna touch on something that Grace mentioned before. I think she started chemical engineering without necessarily having in mind that she was gonna end up interested in the energy sector. It was similar for me. I started chemical engineering right after high school in Argentina. And I started chemical engineering because I had a mentor, a professor at high school, which really served as a role model for me. And I also enjoyed chemistry, physics, math, so it seemed like a good fit. And after that, I started working in consumer goods manufacturing. So I worked for Procter & Gamble, for Johnson & Johnson. So I worked in a manufacturing site, and it was then that I realized that I wanted to learn a little bit more and have a greater impact on sustainability and on people's health. So I decided to go to MIT, and I did this dual degree program, the same that Christine did. It's called MIT Leaders for Global Operations. And through that program is that I got to know Amgen. So I got the chance through the program, through the master's degree, to do an internship at Amgen. And I put there digital technologies. I learned during my master's degree, I focused a lot on understanding and implementing artificial intelligence and machine learning models. So I focused a lot on that during my master's degree. And I did an internship at Amgen developing a machine learning model to understand how the raw materials that are used in the manufacturing process can impact the process efficiency and the product quality. So I got to know Amgen through the program, and I got then a full-time job at Amgen. But I wanted to like highlight, similar to what Grace and Sinai mentioned before, I didn't have that end goal necessarily in mind, but I discovered really the passion of combining technology and business in the pharmaceutical sector as part of this journey. So it has been really, really exciting to discover and learn more about myself through the process.
Emmy, that's so interesting. I feel like a common theme that we're hearing is that no career is a linear career. You don't necessarily go from point A to point B in a straight line. You really are learning more and more about yourself with each new experience that you have. And so I wanna turn it over to Christine now, because you've had so many different engineering roles with various companies. And I know most relevant to what the work we've been doing today is your work at Hymenetics Corporation, where you were working on producing blood processing equipment. But I guess, could you share a little bit about what you most enjoyed about being an engineer in all these various roles?
Yes, thanks so much for having me here today. Great to see so many different students interested in learning a bit about engineering. So I did have a lot of different experiences, and I just wanted to pull a few different kind of themes from those experiences, things that I didn't necessarily think I would have the opportunity to do when I first went into studying engineering in college. But one of the things that I thought was really fascinating about the career was my opportunity to travel. I got to work on projects, one in particular, a hydromassage bathtub pump that I was working on at ITT, that took me from New York to Chicago to Canada to Mexico to Germany. I was the project manager based in the New York area, and the customers for the product were largely based in Europe. So I had to travel to Germany and Belgium and Luxembourg to interview the customers about the features that they wanted to see in this product. And then the controls for the product were being developed by a firm based in Ottawa, Canada. The motor was being produced in Chicago, and the product was being assembled in Mexico. So as the project manager, I had to visit all these different locations and work with the different design and manufacturing teams to ensure that all the teams had the resources that they needed to keep the project on schedule. And then another interesting kind of project was when I was at the United Technologies Research Center. I got to see one phase of product development, which was to work in the research lab and to develop new processes to improve our efficiency in an injection molding manufacturing technology. That was actually when I was at the MIT Leaders for Global Operations program that Emmy spoke about. This was my senior thesis there. So I spent time in the research lab working on improving this manufacturing process, and then actually had the opportunity to take those new procedures and implement them out in a variety of the United Technologies automotive plants, where they were producing, thousands of automobile parts a day. So to see that cycle from research and development to implementing in production was really interesting. And then finally, when I ended up at Haemonetics in the Boston area, I was involved in evaluating new businesses and technologies that could enhance the effectiveness of their blood processing equipment and help increase the company's sales. And so this work was just particularly rewarding because the products that we were developing could really enhance a person's quality of life.
That's amazing. What a rich variety of careers. And I was struck by how it sounds like you were having to coordinate across thousands of miles, various countries. Was there aspects to your early engineering training and things like that that helped with that incredible coordination that was required? Or did the MIT business experience really help hone that?
Yes, teamwork was always really stressed in both undergraduate and in our MIT graduate program. In fact, I remember one year, I thought this was an interesting experience. Our accounting professor decided that they would put us all in teams of like 4 people. And then on the final exam, we would all get the lowest grade of the team member in the class. So it was like a real, idea that everybody needed to work together to help the other classmates, their team members, be able to do the accounting work. So that was a kind of a school-based exercise. But yes, in work, I mean, I've often had students say to me, oh, can you tell me like what project did you develop, like something you did on your own? And I always have to answer that question by saying, in the industrial world and developing new products, I can't point to one thing that I developed on my own. It's such a huge teamwork kind of process, so many different roles and ideas that go into making these final products. So teamwork is critical.
Couldn't agree 100%. I couldn't agree more. Well, I know it's amazing for you to see a fellow classmate in Emmy and a fellow student who has now gone on to her own engineering career, Emma. Emma, can I ask you a question about, could you tell us a bit more about ways that you explored engineering while you were in school in your classes and maybe some of the meaningful projects that you've had?
Yeah, so one of my most meaningful projects in college was outside of the classroom. During my first semester at Bucknell, I joined the eNable Club. eNable is an online community of volunteers from all over the world who use 3D printers to make low-cost prosthetics for children and adults in need. We most of the time use open source designs created by eNable volunteers. So how it works is we'd have 5 to 10 projects running with a small team assigned to 3D print and assemble the prosthetic. And I became a team lead as well as eventually the president of the club. However, during my senior year, a faculty member adopted a golden retriever who was missing a part of his leg, and eNable doesn't have any existing designs for dogs. So we designed this from scratch, and I really got to expand on my 3D printing and CAD skills. And it was exciting to do this outside of the classroom because I got to, be a lot more creative, play with a puppy, figure out how to take on this new challenge. The process involved measuring and molding Doug's leg. That was the puppy, Doug. And we had many iterations of prototypes. And this project was a super important lesson in user needs, which I deal with a lot today in my current job. So Doug was an enthusiastic puppy who did not think he needed a prosthetic to run around. In fact, it slowed him down. However, in time, running on 3 legs will cause him to have arthritis. It's impossible to communicate this to Doug, which was our biggest challenge, like making a prosthetic that he actually wants to wear and won't kick off. And it taught me that in projects, it's important to identify the user needs and what your challenges might be going into the project or as early on as you can, so that you can foresee what you might have to change about it. We could have looked at, different materials we might have to use to make it more suitable for a dog than for human patients who might understand the prosthetic isn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but it will be helpful in the long term.
I love that. And I'm trying to look at, I have a rambunctious dog myself, and I'm just trying to look at this sort of paw that you created. But I think a big message I heard in your remarks were about empathy. And I think a big part of engineering, the engineering design process, is to help understand our customer, the community that we're trying to serve. And empathy is, in addition to creativity and teamwork, etc., empathy is a big part of that as well. Emmy, I wanted to ask you kind of a similar question. Do you have a role or a project that you have found really rewarding?
Yes, yeah, indeed. I wanted to also highlight that when I joined Amgen, I had the opportunity to join a leadership rotational program, which was great because it let me touch different parts of the industry and find out what I was really passionate about. So I was able to do a rotation in manufacturing support. So basically supporting the production of the pharmaceuticals, these biologics. Then my second rotation was as a frontline manager in the actual on the floor producing the pharmaceuticals, so managing the people that were executing the process on the floor. And then I had a final rotation in digital supply chain. And through these different rotations, I learned that, as I mentioned before, what I really liked was combining technology, the development of technology with the business and operation knowledge to develop solutions. And I wanted to highlight one project that I worked on in my first rotation in this manufacturing support rotation. And I worked in a drug substance, supporting a drug substance manufacturing facility. So I wanted to explain a little bit more what is drug substance. What do I refer to when I mention drug substance? So these biologics, as I mentioned before, they are usually injected in our bloodstream. So you can think of the drug substance of what goes into the syringe or into the vial. Then the drug product is the actual syringe, vial, and then we have another manufacturing stage, which is packaging the vials and the syringes so that they are in the form that you consume them. So there's 3 different stages in our manufacturing network. One is drug substance manufacturing, which is what goes inside. Then you have the drug product, which are the vials, the syringes, and then the actual packaging. So there's those 3 manufacturing stages. And on my first rotation, I worked supporting a facility in Puerto Rico that produces drug substance. And the problem that I tackled was trying to increase how we could increase the capacity of that facility. And I achieved that through developing an optimization model. So I did process simulation, and that's that image that you see in the center. So we developed optimization models to understand what we needed to change in the facility in order to output more product. And it was really exciting because we were able to increase the facility by 170%. So we were able to increase the run rate, how fast we can start a new batch of a product. We were able to squeeze and take out more product out of the same facility by doing some small changes in the facility. There were also construction and a capital investment required, but it was really exciting to see how a model could inform those important business decisions. And I really enjoyed this project because it helped me connect with our core mission, which is serving patients. So we were able to serve more patients through this engineering project. So that was really, really exciting.
That is an incredible amount of growth, and it sounds, with just small changes and using an analytical model to make those changes. I think what resonated with me in your remarks is, again, that whenever you're trying something new in your career or even a new class in your high school, you continue to learn more and more about yourself and what you like and what you feel like where you can make the biggest contribution. So I encourage students, start thinking right now what it is that you really love doing and where you think you can make a big contribution. And I know that will lead you in the right direction as you start to think about future careers. You certainly don't have to have it all figured out. I hope you're seeing today all the different variety of things that our amazing panelists have done in their career, but each time they're learning more about themselves. So I think I will ask Christine, do you have a project that you are particularly proud of?
Sure. Also, I do want to say, like, just hearing Emma and Emmy speak about their projects and listening to the enthusiasm they had for learning new things and adapting to new challenges is so important. Like this whole notion of like a continuously learning, and especially at the pace that our world keeps changing and new technologies are evolving, it's so critical to one's career. So very exciting for me to hear them talk about it and to know that my healthcare will be in good hands in the future. But in speaking specifically about my career, probably my most rewarding experience was when I worked on site at Haemonetics' largest blood bank customer, working with them, doctors and nurses, to develop standard operating procedures for our centrifuge product that did collection of platelets for cancer patients in a way that significantly increased access to these life-saving blood components. So just to explain a little bit more about the technology, traditional blood collection involves a donor giving a unit of whole blood and then leaving the blood bank or the blood drive location. A lot of times churches and schools and shopping malls will have people come and donate blood. They'll take that unit of whole blood back to a lab and then separate the blood into different components, red cells, platelets, plasma, that can be used for different therapeutic treatments. Haemonetics makes machines like the one pictured in this slide that's about the size of a microwave, and it does platelet apheresis. This is a non-surgical procedure that uses a small centrifuge to separate and remove the platelets from the donor's blood. And then the remaining blood can be returned back to the donor in that one sitting. And being able to collect platelets in this way is very valuable because a unit of whole blood can only be donated once every couple of months, or the time it takes for red cells to regenerate. Platelets, on the other hand, regenerate every 5 to 6 days. So they are often used to treat cancer patients and have to be matched to the patient. But with platelet apheresis, like the Haemonetics machine here, a single donor can donate platelets every week and therefore treat that same cancer patient with that same matched set of platelets. So this became especially meaningful to me when my father was diagnosed with cancer and he needed to receive those weekly donations of platelets, very important to his treatment.
That's amazing, and it sounds like it really has made a difference in a lot of patients' lives. Well, I know we have a few minutes left, and before we open it up for questions, could I ask each of you to kind of just share some words of advice? I'm going to stop sharing, but I would love to hear from each of you just sharing a bit of advice for our students today. And Emma, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. So one of my first pieces of advice would be to get involved. This sounds really simple, and it is, but just really utilizing your classes, research clubs, and internships, those are all good ways to get involved. Even if you're not exactly sure what you want to do, trying out new things is a great way to, identify, I don't like this, I do like this, and you can narrow it down. And especially once you get to college, one of my biggest tips with this would just be going up to professors if you liked their class and asking, hey, do you have any research opportunities? Do you know of any other alumni who are in this area? I want to learn more about this. They'll all be willing to help you. And that kind of links into my next piece of advice, which is I want to emphasize the importance of connections, whether these come from professors, professional mentors, or any form of networking. You'll find that so many people have been on this path before you, and they might be able to offer you great advice on some decisions you have to make. I would also say it's important to keep contact with your mentors and your network when you're not just looking for a job, but all the time. It'll make everyone much more excited and willing to help you at that time when you are looking for a job. Lastly, I just want to touch on kind of the day-to-day, how to get through the difficulty of engineering school and an early engineering career. One of the main things I would say is ask questions, demonstrate that you're really eager to learn. That's one thing that my boss says is his favorite thing about me is I'm always trying to learn new things. And don't be afraid to say that you don't know something. It'll always come across better admitting that you don't know, but you want to learn, than trying to pretend an answer that you don't really have. Asking questions is also always a great way to overcome challenges you might face, such as imposter syndrome or hard projects. You're always going to be able to ask other people for help, ask for advice. And so that's just the advice I'd like to leave you with is be curious, always be eager to learn, and I promise it will help you succeed.
Such wise words, such wise words. I'm going to move to Emmy now, and I actually want to insert a question that we had from Matthew at Mr. Lee's high school. And Matthew was wondering, in what other ways could we serve more patients than just process simulation or capacity improvement? So I know you have advice to share, but do you have any thoughts on that question as well?
Certainly, yes. Thank you, Matthew, for the question. And I talked about process simulation and capacity improvements because that touches a lot of the work that I've done in my career within manufacturing. But certainly there's other ways that we can increase patient access to medicine. And I think a big one that comes to mind is the investment in research and development, right? That all companies are currently doing. So it's finding innovative medicines that can tackle diseases that do not have any treatment right now. So that's a big area of research in the company that I work for. I work more on the manufacturing side of the medicines that actually exist. So I don't work on the development arm, but that's another way in which we can actually serve more patients. And going into my advice, Emma, you shared great advice. I would add, and I think I touched a little bit during my previous remarks, but I think it's good to have a plan, but have a North Star, right? That mountain that I put in there in the first image. It's important to have that plan and know where we want to get, where we want to get to, but be flexible enough to seize opportunities along the ways, because there's not a single way of getting to that mountain peak, right? There's multiple ways to reach there. So I think it's very good to have a plan, but we don't have to be rigid. We have to be adaptable. That's something that I learned and that I continue to struggle with because I really like structure. But I know that I have to be opportunistic of the things that pop up and that might really be good for me. Then the other one, Emma, you mentioned this one, and I think it's very important. We learn much more from our mistakes than from sitting in a class. So it's very important to admit, hey, I don't know this, or I'm wrong here, and to ask the right questions. And I also found that when admitting mistakes, and being humble, you will trust. People start to trust more because you are able to admit like where you got it wrong or if you don't know something. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. They really lead to great learnings. And the third one is one near and dear to my heart. As I said, I really like structure. I see myself as somebody very disciplined. So working on small habits, being consistent, I think that's very, very important. So it doesn't matter like if like I don't know if I was like great at math. I don't remember in high school, but putting the work and really working on being disciplined and being consistent and showing up to class every day, motivated to learn. I think that's very, very important.
Such great advice. The last resonated with me because I also don't think I was the best math or science student, but I was willing to work hard. And I go back to my mantra about learning how to solve math problems and physics problems is like learning how to shoot a free throw. The more you practice, the more you work at it, the better you get at it. And so now let's hear from Christine. I know she has some advice to share with you all.
I think many of the things are really going to be things you've heard throughout this whole presentation, but maybe just bear repeating. So as you know, Emma mentioned, having mentors is really important. Career paths are rarely linear, and it's so helpful to have people to consult that can guide you in managing your career. Like Joanna, I think my father, pictured on the left there, was my first mentor. He was a chemical engineer at Eastman Kodak. I was an only child and daughter, so he was very encouraging about me trying to go into areas where women had been traditionally kind of underrepresented. Also, like Emmy, I had a high school teacher that served as a mentor. My 9th grade biology teacher connected my love for medicine and doing things to enhance people's quality of life. And then throughout college and careers, I just worked with people or took classes from people that became mentors. So just I encourage you to look for those mentor relationships, even now in high school. Look for those teachers that really inspire you. And then the next kind of a piece of advice is embrace opportunity. Like Emmy said, be open to new experiences, believe in yourself, and take some risks. I've worked in a number of organizations, including, these companies named here. And some of these came from opportunities, scholarship opportunities that mentors encouraged me to apply for. Others were just listening to a recruiter give me a pitch on the phone, and just being open to hearing about different opportunities, and also recognizing, really, really important, that you do not have to have every skill that a job posting lists, but just have the desire and willingness to learn what you don't know. Go ahead and apply for those jobs and be brave in pursuing your career. Very rarely does somebody have every skill on that list when they apply for that job. And then I also, the idea of hard work, so persevering is so important. It's really, really important that you're willing to work hard, especially when you're starting out in your career. Be willing to invest some extra hours to learn new skills and demonstrate your commitment. It will really earn you some recognition. And just as you've learned when you've been doing these Engineering Tomorrow lab challenges, you're not expected to be successful the very first time. You learn from those failures, as Emmy said. So understand that failure is just an important part of learning, and operate with a spirit of continuous improvement. Certainly do not obsess over failures, but do analyze them and find out, what did you do wrong, and how, therefore, are you less likely to make the same mistake again. And then finally, I would say display empathy. So as Emma shared when she was discussing the prosthetic for Doug the dog, try to look at problems from the other person's point of view. Engineers design solutions to solve problems, but be sure that you understand what your customer needs before you get too far down the design path. And having empathy also applies to working with others, working with your colleagues and your classmates. It can be challenging. People can be very challenging at times, but really try to be kind to everyone. As Maya Angelou has said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So if you treat people with respect, you will find mentors, new career opportunities, and understanding when you make mistakes. So thank you for all your time.
Wow, what a beautiful reflection from all three of you. I've been so inspired by your words today. I've seen so many connections to me as a high school student and me as a college student, and then in my career. So thank you so much for these wonderful words. If we have some time, I'd love to just, does the Academy Charter School have any questions? I see them coming up to the camera. Do we have time for a couple of questions?
We do have time. If anyone has questions, feel free.
No, we didn't have any questions, but we're definitely listening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I just can't say thank you enough. I don't think for the day, for the work that's been done. And I'm just going to share a few highlights from our day, just to show you a couple of the amazing work that's been done. So here we go. Shout out to Lodi. Shout out to our college mentors, Catherine and Grace, and then Sanahi in the wrap-up session. And then Academy Charter, thank you so much for your articulate words and contributions today. Ruthven Ayrshire High School, I want to thank you for your questions that you gave us in advance. You really helped to inform what we wanted to talk about today, so I so appreciate that. Lancaster High School, thank you for being the brave first school to come up and present your designs, and I'm so glad you found success. Here's some more from Lodi, Hard at Work, and Anthony Akers Charter School. looks like you had some great ones. Montebello, thank you for that great question in Mr. Lee's class. I really appreciate that. And then finally, I'm gonna have to shout out our wonderful keynote panel. So many words of advice I heard and reflections. So thank you so much for such a wonderful and informative and inspiring day.
Wow, I don't know about you. I'm feeling really inspired. And as Constance mentioned, this all-female led day and panel was just phenomenal. Thank you so much, Emmy, Emma, Christine, and also let's give it up for Joanna Cottle, who did a fantastic job leading this day. Students and teachers, thank you so much. You were so engaged, and we really, really enjoyed our time with you today. So we hope to see you soon. Our next one is February 5th, green hydrogen. Come on back. Okay, submit those exit tickets. Look out for an email with today's full recording. And thank you. And thank you to ET staff for making this happen. Have a great day. We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks.